Okay guys, today I'm going to talk about trigonometry, its equations and identities, and how the equations and the identities of trigonometry can be used to solve problems when you ever get one. Okay, so let's talk about what's trigonometry. Trigonometry can simply be understood by the basic trigonometry can simply be understood by the basic trigonometric functions. Sometimes it as the Trig, so I take a right angle triangle, and I call this inclination theta, and I'll call this one as the adjacent side because it's just adjacent to the angle I have made here. And this as the opposite side. And you know that if this is the right angle triangle, this is the hypotenuse. So you know that sin theta is equal to the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse. I'll call the opposite side hypotenuse, and cos theta equals the adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse, right? And tan theta equals opposite side divided by the adjacent side, which is also equal to sin theta divided by cos theta. Alright, so those are the basic trigonometric functions. Sin theta, cos theta, tan theta. It doesn't matter whether the angle is theta or something else. The basic trigonometric functions are mentioned as the sine of some angle, cos of some angle, and tan of some angle. In order to understand the trigonometric functions and the identities, you need to know 11 types of formats. Those are: the first one is the type called quotient identities. In which a quotient is the result of a new type of identity in trigonometry. The second type is called the reciprocal identities. The third one is the Pythagorean identities. And the fourth one are the co-function identities. is the sum identities or addition formulas. Just write some identities. This one is difference identities. Right? The third one is double angle formulas. And eighth one is even odd identities. Even odd identities. One being sum to product formulas. The tenth one being the other side, the product to sum formulas. And the 11th one, and the last one, being half angle formulas. Alright, so those are the 11 types of identities and the types of formats that we need to understand the different equations in order to solve the problems of trigonometry whenever you get them. So, before identifying all these identities, what I want you to know is that what is the angle made by two sides and how an angle can be defined. Alright, so to understand that, first of all, we have to take some coordinate system. Angle as x, this axis as x, and this axis as y. We define an angle in trigonometry to be either counterclockwise rotation of an angle theta as positive and clockwise rotation of an angle we call alpha, which is theta. So the counterclockwise rotation of this angle around this point is positive, and the clockwise rotation of this angle around this point is said to be negative. Right? So this is a coordinate system. X. So you know that there are four parts divided by these two axes. This is the first part, this is the second part, this is the third part, and this is the fourth part. So we call these parts as quadrants in trigonometry. This is called the first quadrant, and the side that is just adjacent, which is flipped over of the y-axis, is called the second quadrant, which is this one. And this is called the third quadrant, which is just flipped over the x-axis, and again which is just flipped over y-axis, which is called the fourth quadrant. And the fourth quadrant. And what I actually wanted to mention by this is what happens to different angles and what happens to the basic identities when they are in different quadrants. Now you know that theta varies when the angle is either increased or decreased, and we call that this as this point in which the first quadrant begins at the principal base or something similar to that principal base or the base axis of rotation. Or similar. So this is where normally we start a rotation. This is where we normally start a rotation. From here onwards, we either take this clockwise or this counterclockwise or this clockwise to get a specific angle. And as I mentioned before, if you take it counterclockwise, it is measured in positive angle, positive degree. So when you go further in this lecture, you will know what is meant by radian, another type of measurement for angles. And also if you are measuring on the other side, on the other rotation, you are measuring it clockwise. So what happens actually to the angles, to the principal dimensions, or the principal trigonometric functions when they are in different quantities? You know that this is equal to 90 degrees. So as follows. So we call this as 0 degrees, and this one as 90 degrees, this one as 180 degrees, and this one as 270 degrees, and 0 degrees overlap with 360 degrees. Alright, so this is a picture. 0, 90, 80, 180, 270 and 360. The 360 degree point is overlapped with the 0 degree point. So we are measuring angles from the principal base, or the base of axis of rotation. So we are taking different angles and we have to measure, and we take a common notation, common general notation into which the different basis or the basic trigonometric functions, which are sine of some angle, cos of some angle and tan of some angle, are defined in each of these quadrants. So we take the first quadrant to be all positive. That means take this one again. This is X and this is Y. So this is the first quadrant. We say all are positive here. All positive. That means sine is positive, cos is positive, and tan is positive. So you mentioned that, I just mentioned that this is a notation. This is a notation. This is a general concept that we all have to believe, right? It actually happens when in the next lectures, when I discuss about different angles that you can measure, you can understand. It actually happens. But for the first time when you are defining this, you have to understand that this happens. This is like a definition. Now if you have something like some definition of some term, you need to define it. So that's the definition. You cannot go against the definition. You have to understand the definition and you have to obey that definition if it is true. So this is like, although this is notation, this is like a definition that the angles, the signs of, I mean the signs, whether it is positive or negative, of the basic trigonometric functions in different quadrants is positive or negative, is mentioned by this notation. So in the first quadrant, as I said before, all are positive, and in the second quadrant, only the sine is positive, and cos and tan are negative. The third quadrant, tan is positive, sine and cos are negative. And last quadrant, cos is positive, sine and tan. Alright, so in the first part of this series of lectures on trigonometry, I explained what is meant by trigonometry and how the excuse me, the basic trigonometric functions can be defined, and also I mentioned about the quadrants and how the different signs of the basic trigonometric functions can be defined and what are their signs in different quadrants. So in the next part of the lectures I will define what is meant by the 11 types of formats as I mentioned in the first few minutes of this lecture, and then we'll directly go to the solved problems. See you there.